far, so good. So far, so good. Yep. Let me just...
What's your YouTube channel? I'll put a post on Facebook letting people know.
Inner Peace with Denise. So far, so good. Yep. Let me just...
What's your YouTube channel? I'll put a post on Facebook letting people know.
Inner Peace with Denise. So far, so good. Yep. Yeah, I was getting feedback because I had that window open as well, but that's all good now. Alrighty. Hi everybody, just to let you know that Susie and I are on my YouTube channel, which is Inner Peace with Denise. So we're over there. For some reason it's not letting us go live onto Facebook, but we're over there. So hopefully see you soon. Love, love, love. Alrighty. Okay. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? Right. So, while people are gathering, I can't actually see it on YouTube. I might just take my iPad out of here and then I can just keep an eye if there's any comments on YouTube as well, because I took YouTube off my phone.
Oh, maybe I can find it on my phone.
Yeah, I turned it off on my computer because there was a slight delay and it wasn't actually feeding back because of the headphones, but I was just getting a bit of an echo. Okay. So while my iPad is warming up, oh, the challenges of technology.
Yes.
Yeah. You got it?
Yeah, I don't know how to see the comments. Yeah, I don't know how to see if there's comments, but it's on here. We're streaming. All right, let's just.
All right, let's just go for it. Okay, so I normally start Love Speaks Love with a little heart-to-heart connect, and I think I need it now. I think I
Yeah,
need to
we all
just
need it now.
calm down. Okay, so I'm going to take my glasses off, and I invite us just to bring our awareness to our heart space in the center of our chest, and let us all breathe in love and breathe out anything of the day so far, anything of the stresses of getting together just now and getting live. So breathing in love to every cell of our bodies, deep into the DNA. And visualizing roots growing down from the soles of our feet and the base of our spine from our coccyx. And these roots are going deep down into the ground, deeper and deeper, all the way down to the beautiful crystalline diamond heart of Gaia. And feeling her love, her recognition of us, and her gratitude for all that we are and all that we do. And connecting our hearts to the heart of the sun, to the heart of Source Creator, the great cosmic heart. And connecting all of our hearts here together, all of us live on the call, and everybody watching the replay. And visualizing a beautiful web of energy all the way around the planet. I see that as golden light. And sending love to all hearts on the planet. Thank you, Susie, so much for your patience and for being here. And thank you to everybody who's managed to join us as well. So you're in Sedona, and I know you took a bit of a leap of faith some years ago, um, leaving your job, leaving everything behind, I would think. And did you know at that time you were going to Sedona, or was it just... So how did you end up in Sedona? How was that journey for you?
Yeah. Well, I was standing at my kitchen sink one time in Pennsylvania, and which is, for those not in the US, that's the other side of the continent. And Spirit said, it's time to move. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had felt the energy of the home I was in, that it didn't have anything for me anymore. And so I wasn't surprised by that message. But what I was surprised by was a couple days later, they kind of gave it to me in pieces, right? A couple days later, they were like, actually, you're going to be getting rid of all your things and packing your car, and we'll let you know where to go. And I'm like, oh, that's funny, because I don't like road trips. So great. I can't wait. Awesome. But the calling was so strong. The message was so clear. I couldn't ignore it. And there was very little fear. I was actually like, I was so in the energy of this is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
That I just went for it. And that was the end of November, and January 11th, I left Pennsylvania. So I knew I was going to see my family in Utah. I had some family in Utah, and I knew I was going to stop there. And then I knew I was going to come see a friend in Sedona. And so that was all I knew. And I was going to be in Sedona for about 3 weeks, and then I just assumed I would get the message from Spirit where to go next. And then after I got here, I was here like 3 days, and I knew I was going to be here for longer. And so I said, okay. And I talked with my friend, the woman I was staying with, and she said, okay, well, you just stay here as long as you like. There's a bed for you and food in the fridge, and, you just stay here as you need to. And I was like, oh, wow, the universe really does provide for me. Okay. This is what people talk about when you hear these stories of stepping out in faith and the universe steps up to provide. And I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about with that. Okay, I get it. So I've been here for almost 7 years and never left.
And so you were already on your awakening journey. You were
Oh,
already...
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
And
was 9 years in at that point.
yeah. All right. So to start with, because this is a similarity as well, because I was a nurse and then I got the call to go to Australia, and it was like, obviously it took me more than 2 months. I had to apply for a visa, etc. But the pull on my heart was so strong to go, and people were like, "You're really brave," and I'm like, now I look back and think, yeah, it was brave, but really it wasn't, because I just knew that it was the right thing to do. And I remember I thought I was going to live in Brisbane, and Brisbane's about 2 hours north from Byron Bay. And I'd gone on holiday the year before I left everything behind, just to check that I liked it. And I did. And I spent 3 nights in Byron Bay. Um, so I thought, oh, I'll go and visit Byron again. That was a nice place. I'll go for 5 nights this time. And I remember waiting for the taxi to take me to the bus, and I could feel all this stuff in my solar plexus. And I was like, this is bizarre. I'm more nervous about going to Byron than I was leaving Manchester and coming to Australia. But I think it was because, on some level, I knew how big that actually was in an amazing way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the 5 nights for me turned into 12 years. And is that quite common? Because that's a very common Byron story that people would get there for a night or two and then just stay forever. Is that
Yeah.
kind of how it is in Sedona as well?
Totally. You know what's really funny is I thought when I got here that I had this really unique story, and I would tell people and they're like, "Oh yeah, that happened to me too." You know, with slight variances. And I was like, "Oh, I'm not that special here." It's kind of funny. You know, the ego does these silly things with your mind. And I was like, "Oh, I'm actually not that special. Everyone has this story."
And did you work in a hospital? Was it occupational therapy that you were doing?
Yeah, by that time I was in business for myself, and so I wasn't doing
Right.
occupational therapy anymore. But yeah, I started out with pediatric occupational therapy. That was my career for 7 years.
And so the kind of spiritual business that you had was that healing work that you were doing?
Yeah, yeah. I had been doing holistic nutrition counseling with people for 9 years, and then just around that time, I learned how to play the didgeridoo.
Mhm.
I started toning with people on the table and playing the didge on them, and it turned into a healing modality. Actually, I call it didgeridoo deep sound healing,
Yeah.
and it turned into a modality that I use to help people heal. So
And
yeah,
when did you start singing?
um, you know, I've kind of been singing all my life. I grew up in the church, and so we sang hymns and things like that, and praise and worship songs. And when I was in sixth grade, I took voice lessons for 6 months. And one of my childhood dreams was to be one of those, famous singer people on stage. Uh, but then, I kind of forgot about that dream. But then when I began to see, I used essential oils, and I did a healing modality called raindrop technique. And that's when my voice kind of came back, because I would work with people on the table and I would just start to sing and tone to them. And then that's kind of how the healing modality was birthed. Once I learned how to play the didge, then I started doing both things, and then it just kind of emerged.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I've used sound in my healing work. So my journey started with Reiki, and I was still a nurse at that time and actually doing it on patients as well.
Oh, nice.
Um, and introduced Reiki to the hospital. And then I started using sound. I would clap my hands, and I knew that that helped clear the energy on the body. So, but that was as limited as the sound was. And then I bought a set of chimes that go up in the Fibonacci series of numbers, so it's not on a chromatic scale. And I was using those on the body, and it blew me away because I could hear. I would do the chime on the body, and if the area was really blocked, if the energy was blocked, then the sound wouldn't resonate. And I
Yeah.
used to think that the chime was broken, and I'd lift it up, and then it would start resonating, and then I'd
Yeah.
put it down, and it would be
Yeah.
muffled. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So then I'd do my magic, and with the sound as well, keep playing the chime, and it would get more and more resonant.
Yeah.
And for me, the voice came in. I learned something called Anubis Reiki, and we were encouraged in that to use our voice. And it started with just toning. But there's a lot of musicians, probably the same in Sedona. There's a lot of musicians in Byron, and I always seem to live with musicians. But I didn't really sing. But I would hear the harmonies in my head, and I would harmonize with them. They'd be in another room, and I'd be in my bedroom harmonizing with them until I built up the courage to actually do it with them.
Nice.
And then, like, the voice is incredible for shifting energy, and the light language started to come through as well. And I always used to kind of like fish energy out of the body, like pull it out with my hands. But I found with the light language, it would just clear things like immediately.
Yeah.
So I presume, similar to Byron, that light language was around you before you started using it, or had that already come through the light language?
Um, it's a good question. That happened here in Sedona. Um, And I honestly, I can't remember. I may have heard it once or twice before before it came through
Yeah.
me. But you know, in church as a kid, people would speak in tongues.
Yeah.
Same thing,
Yeah.
same exact thing. So I think I was exposed to it very early on.
But you didn't as a child yourself.
Um, maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like 5 lifetimes ago. It's hard to remember.
Yeah. So how so now if someone was coming for a session with you, describe, I know not everyone's the same, but kind of run us through how that might be.
Well, I mean, we have to get more specific. It depends what kind of session they come in for, I guess.
So
Uh,
if it was a sound one,
okay. Well, I generally don't do sound healing one on one
right?
because I prefer to do that with groups just because it takes so much energy
Yeah.
with what I do with the dig and my voice that it's it's not it's not the best use of my body
Yeah.
and my energy. So I prefer to do that with groups.
Yeah.
Most people come for channeling sessions
Right.
and healing.
Yeah.
And when I bring through Prime Creator, it's with the intention to facilitate healing for people. It's not for a psychic reading or to predict their future. It's for healing.
Yeah.
It's to figure out, okay, what's the core issue that's going on right now that you need help and assistance with. And a lot of what has happened lately is inner child healing. And
Mm,
whether I facilitate that or whether Prime Creator facilitates that, that's been showing up a lot in sessions. Just right now, what's happening on the planet, our inner children are just crying and screaming and just, imploring, begging us for our attention.
mm.
And so the inner child healing is massive right now. So that's one of the things that has happened.
And would you do visualization with people with that as well? Like how does that do you
Yeah,
connect them to their inner child?
yeah. It's essentially what I do mostly is have someone think about a time when they were a child that, where is the wounding? Like maybe something happened when you were 5, or maybe something happened when you were an infant, or maybe something happened when you were 12, and to tune into that stream of energy and that consciousness, and then invite that child or that infant to come into the session with us, and we begin speaking with that child. What do you need? What are you feeling? What do you want to say that you were never allowed to say? We're listening now. We hear you. You're in a safe space. We're honoring your wisdom. Things like that, really starting the dialogue, and then having the person be the parent
Yeah.
for that child. So in other words, Denise, for little Denise, you're now the parent of little Denise, and you're going to take care of her and listen to her and hold her, and whatever she needs, you're going to be the provider of that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And
Yeah.
I think everyone's inner child needs that holding.
Yeah.
I think we all have wounds from childhood, like,
Yeah.
even if they're just little wounds, there's something and there's some belief, some program that was created from that
For sure.
time. Yeah.
I want to say, there's the obvious abuse and things like that people need to heal from, but you may have had a wonderful childhood. You may have had very loving parents. And I have very loving parents. Uh, but there's abandonment issues that I've had to work
Yeah.
through. There's issues of being heard, issues of being able to speak my truth, like all of these things that I've, worked with my inner child on. And my parents are very loving. So a lot of times people think, oh, there's nothing for me to deal with here. I had a great childhood, but there's always something, I guarantee you. There's always something. Yeah.
And so the sound healings that you do as well, do you start straight off with the sound or do you like do a bit of visualization with them, a bit of meditation, or is it it's purely starting with the sound?
It's pretty much what you experienced on the Facebook Live that you watched.
Yeah.
Yeah, I start with my voice with the toning, and then I go to the didgeridoo, and then my voice, and then the didgeridoo. And when I do it with groups in person, uh, it depends on how large the group is, but if it's a smaller, intimate group, I'll often receive messages for some or all of the people in the group. It's a very safe, intimate space that's created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they lie down generally or sit?
Yeah. If
Yeah.
whenever possible, if there's room. Yeah.
What I love about the didge, that deep sound just
Yes.
really gets in deep.
Yeah.
Like there's something incredible about the high pitches of a human voice, and there's something maybe that you can only capture with a human voice, but
Yeah.
the didge, it just really gets in there and shifts. And then I guess the voice as well, putting
It,
new codes in too.
yeah, because it's all channeling. The whole thing is channeled. I don't have a set list. It's
Yeah.
whatever comes through in the moment, whatever frequencies are needed by the people in attendance. So the voice and the didge provide this beautiful balance of the masculine feminine,
Yeah.
of the right and left hemisphere of the brain, of heaven and earth.
Mhm.
It's just a very integrative, balancing, healing experience for people on the receiving end.
Yeah, beautiful. And I can feel like I can so feel your connection to source and your integrity in all of this as well. And that makes, yeah, I can I can feel the beauty of it. And I enjoyed your first one with Todd as well. And I don't know if there was a difference between that one and this one, or if I just can't remember how much I resonated with the first one, but I really, really resonated so strongly with this one. It was really powerful, and everything was vibrating in my body. Like I could just feel all the molecules were just like zzz,
Nice.
and
Ooh.
it's like that shaking that kind of like release it dislodges what's not in harmony as well, and what's it encourages us to let go of things. I think
Yeah.
in that as well,
Yeah. I
because
explain the didgeridoo as when because I play it up on people's bodies. I
yeah,
come into really close proximity if they want it. And it helps to dislodge those things that people are ready to let go of, but maybe they're just having a little trouble moving it through. And the didge just really helps to break it up, dissolve it, and move it out.
yeah.
And by the way, if you're listening and you want to experience what Denise and I are talking about, I have on my YouTube, if you just go to YouTube and look up Susie Beiler, I have this sound healing that Denise experienced. That's on my YouTube.
Yeah. And that was with Todd, wasn't it? That was with Todd,
Yeah, that's
Todd
what's
Medina
on.
in
Yeah,
Sedona. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It was really powerful. Um, okay, so your ring was catching my eye as you were speaking then, and you were moving your
You want me to
hands.
you want
Yeah.
me to flash it again?
So it's a little dragon, a
Dragon.
beautiful sparkly dragon. So tell me about how did that come about? Your connections with the dragons and when?
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a Sedona activation. I am a fire dragon in Chinese astrology.
Hmm.
So I've had that connection from the very beginning and just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Uh, to be honest, I can't remember exactly when this connection sparked. I just remember for a while the blue dragons were asking me to channel them,
Hmm.
and I didn't do it for like a year. A lot of beings want me to channel them, and at some point you just have to put some boundaries around what you bring through. And so I was like, not now, guys. I'm sorry. It's and then it was just like, okay, it's time. I'm going to bring you through. And so I brought through maybe like 12 to 14 transmissions from the Blue Dragons. And they're beautiful 11th and 12th dimensional beings. Uh, they're so wise and powerful. They're just beautiful. Uh, so I did that, and then at the creek one day, where I get my downloads, uh, this children's book just came in, like the whole thing.
Wow.
I was like, oh, this is something. So I got my phone and I spoke into it because I didn't have, pen and paper with me. I just spoke it into my phone, and I had that on my phone for several months. And my friend was like, just write it down,
Mm.
just, this is a book, write it down. And so eventually this book was birthed, called The Dragon Who Swallowed the Sun. This is
Oh.
this is for children and for your inner child. And so I just I just feel so deeply connected with them. I have dragon elder guides, and they're just part of my world. Yeah.
Yeah, I love working with the dragons. They're um so gentle and yet so strong as well and so
Yes.
loving.
Surprisingly gentle, right?
Yeah.
I my because I grew up Christian, dragons were like this.
Yeah.
And so I always had this idea that dragons were bad and fierce, and they breathed fire, and they had these big claws and scooped up humans and ate them, or whatever, whatever the myth says around all of that. And so there was sort of this, I don't know if it was a resistance, but just not a resonance with wanting to connect with that idea of them. But then they showed me who they are.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's completely different than how I thought. And back to your point, surprisingly gentle. Yes, very powerful, very strong, but surprisingly sweet and gentle.
So the transmissions that came through, were they light language or were they in English?
Mm. They were in English.
Yeah.
Yeah. They used my English voice to bring through the messages. Yeah.
And when you channel, um, so there's different kind of different ways to channel. And some people will be kind of like gone or, in the back room and their voice will change. Other people, you kind of like for me, when I do light language, I'm still very much in there watching what's going on and hearing what's going on, but I won't necessarily remember it at the end,
Yeah.
although I can take myself back. How is
Yeah.
it for you when you bringing the dragons in?
Yeah. Whether it's Prime Creator or the Blue Dragons, I'm a conscious channel. And so I am very much present. Because I'm such a sensitive empath, I'm feeling the energy
Yeah.
around what they're saying.
Mhm.
And then I put words to the energy that I feel.
Yeah.
So it's not an exact science, but people who are feelers like me also can feel, when the messages come through, they're like, wow, I could really,
Yeah.
really feel that. So
Is that your strongest sense feeling?
I think probably, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my visual senses got stronger over time, but it took a while. And my hearing, it's like I had earmuffs on. So I'd ask a question and then cover my ears, like I didn't want to hear an answer. But now I hear a lot more as well, and my visual sense is a lot stronger. But I can almost not differentiate between them. Um, and maybe actually primarily claircognizant, and you're probably very strongly claircognizant as well. So you just know stuff. You can feel it in your body, but you just know.
I I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Maneirha, have I got
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Those the beings of light that you're working with. Can you tell me about them a little bit and
Yeah.
perhaps bring a transmission through as well if it feels right, if they
Yeah.
want to?
Oh, I'm sure they always want to. I'm sure they would love it. Um, they're very, very ancient beings, and they're part of the the collective that created this universe. So they're very adept at creation. They understand frequency to form. They understand, what it is to create, to manifest, to take, to put something into form from a frequency state.
Yeah.
So they bring through messages mostly of activation. And as I have been working with them, I have started to be able to translate some of what they're saying,
Ah.
which is pretty cool. Yeah. And if it's a new concept for me, I don't always get the translation right away. Like I brought them through the other day. I had no idea what they were saying. I was like,
Mhm.
oh, these are new codes. Okay. So it depends. It depends on what they're talking about. Yeah.
And so there's many coming through you at the same time, would you
It's
say?
yeah, I would say it's a collective of beings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just one that shows up. It's a collective.
Yeah, awesome. And do you get any visuals of them, or do you just kind of see them as
No.
light?
You know what? I don't think I've ever gotten any visuals. That's a good question. Yeah.
And how
I
do
don't
they
know.
feel? If you could put it into words, how do they feel?
Well, so it depends. It depends on what they're saying, and it depends on who's saying. So within the collective, I can feel some masculine energy. I can feel some feminine energy. So when I'm bringing through more of the masculine, it's like this grounded strength, and when I'm bringing through more of the feminine, it's power, but it doesn't have the same feeling. This is no one ever asked me this before, so I'm trying to figure it out how to answer that. But they're very powerful. They're very activating.
Mm.
Yeah, I can say that for sure.
And how do you
I feel
feel?
activated.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you feel afterwards?
Yeah. Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
It's
Just all, yeah.
I love when you can bring things through like that, and then you just sit in. It's like we create a portal when something like that comes through, and then you can just sit in those frequencies yourself, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Do you ever? The reason I ask is sometimes I used to enjoy when I had a bath, lying in the bath and bringing light language through and just singing, but recording it. And then I would play it back and just lie there and bask in it and receive it myself. Do you ever do anything similar with these?
I can't say I've ever done that in the bathtub, but I've definitely, I listen to my CDs. I have two Deep Sound Healing CDs that I've made, and I'll take those in the car with me, or I'll listen to them. Uh, it helps me bring me back to myself. So yeah, I would say that's probably similar.
Would you? Oh, actually, before we do that, I wanted to ask you about your Facebook page, not your personal page, but
Okay.
the other one. I wanted to make sure that I asked you about that because is that the best way for people to get hold of you?
No, Facebook is not the best way for people to get a hold of me. The best way is to go to creationtemple.com, and there's a contact page there, and they can reach me that way.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's your website.
Yeah. creationtemple.com/contact.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, would you like to bring something through from them?
Yeah. Do you have an intention or a feeling of what?
Mm.
I don't know. What are they asking me? What do you want?
Okay. I'm just going to tune into what to answer for that
Yeah.
because there wasn't
Yeah.
anything specific.
Yeah.
Um,
They want you to be specific.
okay. Anything about the current energies on the planet, all the stuff that everyone's going through?
Okay. Kebe changla kuchala hikiantale inga kuchimotulu muhunyo lo muhunyala iante icha kamohnyela ikuchondo lo kubuchu unkutiliha kapochula ankia talo unchulo kumohuchala hankia itibolo hon unkubuchulo hunkulo hunya tibichili inia mochulo hunkochubo hunyate. We notice the chaos and confusion that many humans are experiencing right now. And we are speaking certain frequencies to help break up some of this dissonance within the collective energy. Chomotolo, Kiotolo, Chimano, Cachella, Ella, Cacholo, Kitchelang, Kitchamantolo, Hola, Kitchahai, Kila, Lomohunyala, Bachala, Machala, Hanyala, Alhala, Macholo, Hunya, Tolo, Chamahanda, La, Kitchile, Cholo, Nkya, Tila, Kachabotolo, Honkyatli, Chimano, Hunchulo. The biggest thing that humans need to do right now is to open their hearts so that they can begin thinking through their hearts instead of thinking with their minds. We also ask you to focus on being grounded and connected to your planet Earth. You are on this earth for a reason. You need to stay connected to her. You have gotten lost in your technologies. And what would be most helpful for you right now is to stay connected to the ground, the soil, the primal nature energies of your planet. Allow your roots to be activated to the connection you have with planet Earth. And yes, to be specific, when we are saying root, we are talking about your sexual organs, your sexual energy, your primal birthing energy, your primal birthright energy, your primal origin energy. It must now be connected to planet Earth. Sink into your bodies, sink into your heart, sink into your roots. Imashala oya kampachala hola nguchi tolo mochuhuya inyatali mochulo chimo tolo chavakatala cha iyatala ha. And breathe down deep into your bodies rather than breathing only into your mind. Breathing the energies of your creation through your root rather than only through your mind. Chumukulu Hiakatala, Ayetcha Antolo Kumuchulu Ukuyo Tulu Uya, Tibakanchala, Iya, Chabakala in Kachamba Otolo Hoia, Ivasha, Kutilam Hula, Kachala Haya, Chamo Delehia, Chaba Mohuyo, Tola Aya, Itima Hale, Bacholo Ho, Bicola Bachele, Chabo Hui, of Oshuma, Patalash, Muchala Fio, Shumbatolo. Because planet Earth herself will continue to raise in frequency. She will continue to move forward. She will continue to move into the photon belt. She will continue to do her thing. If you want to experience the glory that she is representing for you, you must connect with her and heal yourselves. Pushi bokotolo hum, kuchibotolo wakachatala achi bokotolo hum pocho. Mochieta, 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 nakapochotolo. Mochieta, pochietolo. Mochieta.
Wow. Thank you. That was really beautiful and really powerful in a very gentle way. Like as soon as they came into you, I could feel the energy shift around me. And I could feel the flow of energy around me and within me as well. Hard to describe it. Like it's so hard to put those things into words.
Right.
And there's a familiarity there as well.
Yeah, that's what Todd said. A lot of people say that actually when they hear it. They're like, oh, I've heard them before. I know them. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. If they were part of the collective that created this universe, we're part of that also. You know, they're really just higher aspects of ourselves, I would think.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, and even though you're translating kind of what they're saying, it feels like there's a lot of extra frequencies in there that you can't necessarily just put into words, a lot of activation frequencies as well.
Yeah, especially when they were talking about connecting to Mother Earth and the root and origin was the closest word I could get.
Yeah.
They're trying to have us reconnect to our origin frequencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It kind of makes me think original blueprint as well, but it's kind of it's beyond that. It feels. I don't know if I can quite put that into words.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the sounds that come through, there's like a click
Yes.
that comes through.
Yeah.
And these things, I'm always like, how does that work? That's part of my nature. It's kind of like, why? How? Oops, sorry, I just dropped my file on the floor. So I was going to ask you when you're playing Didge, and sometimes you'll speak through the Didge as well. Have you ever done a combination of this? So it's kind of like channeling certain beings, but it's coming through the Didge?
I think so, probably unintentionally. A lot of times people who have experienced this deep sound healing will say, oh, I felt my grandmother, or I saw a wolf, or I felt this being, or, they feel things that maybe I'm not even aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I said before, I show up as the channel. I just show up to bring through the frequencies. It's not a pre-planned set. I don't know what's going to happen. It's really my intention is whatever these people need, bring it through me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like because sometimes playing the didge, it's like your mouth can contort and come through with different sounds as long as your lips are still doing what they need to do to bring the sound through.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that must be quite fun. And I just wonder if, like the click, for example, have you ever brought the click? Do you even know how you do that?
Yeah, but I can't imagine doing it through the didgeridoo. Oh, maybe I have to try that now. Hmm.
And so when you do, I presume you do grid work, you do work on the land as well. Do you do that with the ditch?
Um, Generally not. Generally just through my being and through toning if there's any sound involved.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
light language as well?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
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 Okay. Um, and I wanted to ask you about nature as well, because one of the ways that we connected was through my post about dragonflies, because
Oh,
I think it was 2 years ago, or yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. In my memories, it came through on Facebook of me having a dragonfly on my face. And was yours on your third eye?
yeah. I had a damselfly
Oh,
fly
yeah, yeah,
on my third eye. Yeah.
yeah. And so, are you finding encounters with creatures much more common? Like, because I find they seem to, birds seem to fly closer to me, butterflies seem to fly closer to me. It's almost like there's not as much separation between me and nature and me and the trees. Like they'll just land on a tree and they wouldn't think twice about it, but it's almost like in our previous state, there's something that repels
Yeah.
animals quite often, and
Yeah.
it feels like that to me is reducing that we're just becoming much more one with nature. So are you finding that as well?
Yeah. That shifted for me when I came to Sedona and I started hiking and going out on the land more often. That's when I started noticing those things.
Mm.
And so I'm okay with bees and I'm okay with flying things and snakes and I'm just okay with all of it for the most part. So when something happens in nature, I'm just part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not separated from it. uh, I don't like flies, but that's the only thing that I'll swat away, because they tickle, and I don't want to be tickled. Uh, but I love when the honeybees land on me. I love when the dragonflies or the damselflies land on me. I love things like that. I literally had a snake between my legs a
Whoa.
couple months ago. I mean, and I was like, oh, wow, that's auspicious. That's cool. And it didn't freak me out. I love nature. I love all the beings. Yeah.
What kind of snake?
Um, I think it was maybe an Arizona ground snake.
Right.
It wasn't poisonous. It wasn't a poisonous snake.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I've had an experience with a rattlesnake. We have rattlesnakes here, and I was at the creek again, and I could tell it wanted to cross the creek and come kind of where I was standing, and I was like, "Well, you can if you want. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to stand here." And he was like, "Oh, you're a little too close. Let me go over here." So we went to a different spot and crossed over, and I have this wonderful video of him swimming across the creek and then coming a couple feet away from my feet, and we just had a mutual understanding. I'm not here to hurt you, you're not here to hurt me, we're just coexisting in harmony, and it was really beautiful.
I wasn't gonna share this experience, but since you brought up the snake, I had a lot of different encounters with different creatures in Australia, which I love because most of my photographs there were of animals. You know, it's a real passion of mine. I just love
Mm.
being around nature. And I was at the back of the beach, just minding my own business. I've been doing Reiki on myself. I was in that space between awake and asleep, and I felt something crawl up my leg, and it felt like a sock being pulled at my leg, but I was very deep, and it was there for a few minutes, and then I kind of thought, "Oh, I should maybe have a look what that is, and sat up. And it was a baby brown snake, which is the second most venomous snake in the world.
Oh,
And it was looking at me, and I
yeah.
was looking at it. And at first, I wondered if it was a skink, which is a lizard. But then I
Right.
saw it had no legs. I thought it was a big skink. And then I
Yeah.
saw it had no legs. And I literally did a knee-jerk reaction and just like flicked it off my leg. And as
Mm.
soon as I'd done that, and it was flying in the air with its head going that way, so I kind of knew it was going to go that way. I was like, damn it, I should have stayed still, but I didn't,
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't have that knowledge,
Yeah.
because moving is the worst thing you can do, because if you're still, they're not always necessarily aware of you. And I thought my heart was going to jump out of my chest. Like I was so scared after that. And then it happened again about 18 months later in a different part of the beach. And I was, kind of mermaid style with my legs to one side. And it came really quickly. And it was kind of like here up my arm, very close to my face. And again, I went, and then I was like, damn it, I should have stayed still. But, I defy anybody to stay still in those circumstances. If you can see them coming up, it's one thing. But when it's just like
It's all of a sudden right there.
there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the first time I was trying to calm myself down and I could feel a spider crawling up my back as well. And it was like, please just give me a break now. And the spider thing happened. I got hit by a car when I was riding my bike.
Mm.
And again, I was in the bath trying to calm myself down. And I could feel what felt like a droplet of water running down my back, but it was going up. And I was like, that's not water. It can't go up. So I had a spider, and it's almost like the spiders are like, it's okay, we'll calm you down. I'm like, no, it doesn't really work that way.
I mean, we're still human. We have a reptilian brain for a reason, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Um, how would you feel? Oh, I'm just looking at my eyes have just gone to this is absolutely the most awesome channeling I've ever seen.
Oh,
Um,
yay.
oh my God, you are like the Celine Dion of channeling.
Whoa.
How would you feel? And if you don't wish to, if you feel you've done enough channeling, then really say so. That's absolutely fine. But I just wondered about the blue dragons. If you
Yeah.
if you felt in
Um,
a position to bring them
I
through.
I feel complete with bringing through their transmissions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So do you want to share what may be happening on Saturday?
Yeah, it's not going to be happening this Saturday, but if anyone's interested, let me know and I'll schedule it for another time. I have this inspiration to provide a class for inner child healing and for rebirthing. So right now we are going through a massive rebirth on planet Earth, and I have outlined 5 stages of what the rebirthing process is. For myself personally, I've rebirthed over and over. I've, constantly working on myself and creating myself anew. And so I've come to understand this process very intimately. And it's very helpful to understand where we as a collective are in this process of rebirthing and where you are personally in your rebirthing journey. Because when you know where you are, then you're like, okay, this is the self-healing tool now that I can use. And so it's helpful to kind of have a gauge of where you are. So what I want to do in the class is to outline those 5 stages of rebirthing so you can understand where you are, and then to facilitate a group inner child healing. As we were speaking before, the inner child right now is just really loud and clamoring for our attention. And so we need to be very present with with our inner children. And so I'd like to facilitate a healing. So if that's of interest to you, let me know. I think the best way is to go to creationtemple.com/contact and just let me know that that's something that you're interested in. And then uh, also just create a free membership in the Creation Temple. And then you'll be on my newsletter list also. And then you'll get any alerts and announcements that I have about any classes that I'm running. That would be the easiest way also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant.
but let me know of your interest. I'm not going to do it if no one's interested, but if there are a lot of people interested, then I definitely want to, provide
Yeah,
that.
thank you. And I think anyone who's been watching this can feel the caliber of what you bring through and your integrity in this as well. So I think anything that you are offering is going to be well worth doing. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Denise. Thank you.
And thank you so much for persevering with me in getting our chat together.
Oh my God, tech issues. What the heck today? I blame it on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah, I've no idea why that was as it was, but here we are on In a Piece with Denise. So thank you everybody who's joined us as well, and for your patience and for managing to find us. I'd love to do this again sometime and make it work properly next time.
Figure out the Facebook things that they've
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, it's very bizarre because I tried to do a live yesterday and it just wouldn't do it. But I've no idea why. Like it wasn't my computer. Yeah. So there's some issue on the Facebook level.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for honoring us with your presence. It's been a really beautiful chat. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely to connect with you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for this opportunity to share. Thanks,
Yeah,
Denise.
my pleasure. And yeah, if you're now in Love Speaks Love and you haven't subscribed, that would be awesome if you feel to. And it's Susie Beiler, your YouTube channel?
No, but if you go on YouTube and look for Susie Beiler, you'll find me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's Shamalata and the number 2, but no one knows how to spell that. Just go to Susie Beiler. Just search Susie Beiler, SUSIEBEILER.
Wonderful. All right, I shall stop the live now. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone.